Prince Harry's fresh lies exposed. The duplicitous Duke has defended his appalling attacks on his family and his country in the book Spare, on the Oprah TV interview, on his Netflix documentary, and in podcast conversations. And he's denied that all of this was made public. Now, on his surprise trip to war-torn Ukraine, which makes an absolute mockery of the idea that he fears for his safety in the UK, he was followed around by a journalist from the Sussex-friendly Guardian newspaper. And with an extraordinary lack of self-awareness, the Prince said, and I quote, "My conscience is clear." That's what he said. He said, "My conscience is clear." And he denied that he had brought private family matters into the public sphere and created a soap opera. What planet does this guy live on? How can he deny that he has been washing the family laundry in public? It makes no sense. He either is very stupid, very dishonest, or just in denial. I think it's all three. So speaking to the Guardian journalist, who is clearly under Harry's spell and has been drinking the Sussex Kool-Aid because it was a horribly unbalanced article, Harry said, "I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear." This is truly shocking. This raises questions about his mental sanity. I honestly think he's lost the plot. Let's listen to that quote one more time. "I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear." Now, where to start? Well, let's start with the arrogance of "my conscience is clear." After what he's put his family through, to make a flex like that and to keep digging. And you know what they say? There's an old adage. If you're in a hole, stop digging. Well, Harry's got his shovel and he's so deep in the ground now that he can see the equator. There's actually gold and diamonds. That's how deep the guy is now, right? He's nearly in Australia. That is how far he is digging, with this incredibly ill-advised interview with the Sussex-friendly Guardian just days after his reconciliation with Charles. And isn't this what we've been saying all along? That if Charles brings Harry back into the royal fold, Harry will run off to the papers, he'll speak to journalists, and suddenly the crazy soap opera is reignited. And that's exactly what's happened. Because really, Harry was no longer relevant. He was not a topic of conversation in the public sphere. But of course, Charles welcomes him to Clarence House. He's got his currency back. He's making headlines. And he runs straight to the Guardian newspaper. So "my conscience is clear" is an incredibly arrogant thing to say. It demonstrates a brass neck and a tin ear. Those are both, I think, British expressions. Brass neck just means that your neck is, you're so full of yourself. Your neck is like solid brass, like that. "Oh, I'm Prince Harry, and my conscience is clear." And a tin ear, right? This is basically a metaphor to demonstrate that Harry has not read the room. A tin ear is it's a replacement of an actual ear, and therefore it doesn't work as an ear. And that's the point, because Harry, he doesn't learn, he doesn't listen, he doesn't observe anything, because it's three things. It's denial, it's stupidity, and it's dishonesty as well. I'm genuinely shocked by these remarks. How can he say that he didn't air his dirty laundry in public? He wrote an entire book, 600 pages, about his family in excruciating detail. And he says that he had a tough message. Well, that is a patronising thing to say, isn't it? It's a tough message. They didn't want to hear it, but I had to share my truth. It was a tough message, but I'm a tough guy, and I'm a leader, and I'm a warrior, and I'm wonderful. I'm Prince Harry, the world's least happy millionaire. Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. My terrible life. So how he can say that egregious book that brought misery to the Queen in her final days was the best way possible for him to share his concerns about his time with the royal family is insanity. I honestly think he's just crazy now. Harry has entered the funny farm. He needs to be in a straitjacket like that, and he needs the men in white coats to come along with a big needle and just jab in the arm. And he went, "Oh, Prince Harry, my conscience is clear. What's that? Big jab in my arm." Right? Just a bit of a sedative. And I don't know, maybe to put a brain scan in there, right? Take him to a clinic, to some kind of medical repository, put him in a scanner. First thing they'd have to do is they'd have to find the brain. That is going to be a job of work. They're going to require an electron microscope, which is the most powerful microscope in the world. Okay, it can actually see viruses and prions and things that are basically almost invisible when you have a magnification of times 1 million. And even smaller than a virus and even smaller than a prion, which is a creepy little virus that you can't kill, is going to be Harry's brain matter. And honestly, I mean, what is going on? And this is why I said it was a big mistake for Charles to welcome Harry in, mainly because, yes, Harry's ill-judged and he makes mistakes and he's foolish and he's as thick as two short planks, but he's just crazy now. That's the problem. And you cannot do business with someone that's in the funny farm. It can't be done. So best way possible. My conscience is clear. It was a difficult message. Extraordinary. So he brought misery on the Queen. In that book, Spare, and with his airing of the dirty laundry in public, he angered his brother. He deeply insulted his brother by attacking Catherine and revealing intimate details of a fight that William and Harry had. And William was the victor in that battle. William gave him a clout. Now, on the Mark Dolan show, we do not advocate violence. It was the wrong thing for William to do. But Harry puts that in a book. He didn't need to. There is no way that when brothers fall out like that, that you make it public, because this is a private family matter. And he says he's not washed his family's dirty laundry in public. And what about the Oprah interview, which was the most egregious thing of all, and the accusation of racism against an unnamed member of the royal family? If that's not dirty laundry, right, dirty linen, and if that's not in public, which is an Oprah interview, then I don't know what is. And of course, Harry loves to be around people that are yes men and yes women and perpetuate his self-delusion, which is why the Sussexes were interviewed not by a fantastic anchor on US TV, someone that's an actual journalist, okay, from CNN or Fox News, right? A bona fide established journalist, ideally a political journalist, because I consider Harry and Meghan to be deeply political people. They're not regular, they're not authentic, and they're not entertainers. They're not in the world of showbiz. Harry and Meghan are politicians, and they've played a political game since the day they got married. Harry and Meghan are politicians, not entertainers. And the reason I say that is because you know when a politician is lying, and it's when their lips are moving. And that's what we got with Harry and Meghan. My husband, my conscience is clear. I did it in the right way. It was a tough message for everyone. The Queen won't have liked it, but she had to hear a tough message, and I had to make her life miserable with the knowledge that the book Spare was coming, which destroyed her final days as she worried about what impact the book would have on the family and the monarchy to which she devoted her life. Humpy-dumpy-dumpy-dump. He also says that he didn't air the family dirty laundry in public, and yet he attacks Princess Catherine in the book, casting her as a horrible sister-in-law that made Meghan cry, which is another big fat lie. I'm not having it. I think that Catherine's life was made a misery when Harry and Meghan were in the palace, because Meghan wanted to destroy Catherine, because Meghan's so jealous, because Catherine was going to be queen and she wasn't, and Catherine lived in a bigger house than Meghan, who wasn't happy in Frogmore Cottage. There's so many frogs there, they're slimy. And she hated Catherine because she's so beautiful. She hated Catherine because she is a natural princess. And she hated Catherine because she's smarter than Meghan. I mean, Catherine is an absolute rock star. Catherine's a rock star. Tell me one mistake that Catherine's made in her entire time as a serving royal. Oh my God, she's sensational. And Meghan hates it. This is a tough conversation to have. But let's have it anyway, because that's what we do on the Mark Dolan show. Are you sick of biased news? Well, so am I. And that's why every morning, with my big cup of decaf in my Father's Day mug that I actually bought for myself, I read Ground News. It shows how stories are covered differently by the left, the right, and the centre. Take this one, for example, President Donald Trump's tariff crusade. Some outlets say that he's mad and is wrecking the economy. Others say that he's standing up for American jobs and will triumph. Well, Ground News shows both sides and lets you decide, because it turns out you've got a brain! Who knew? So try Ground News. Go to ground.news/Dolan or click the link below. You will get a 40% off discount from the Vantage plan. 40% off for the plan that I use for unlimited access. It is a game-changing way to consume the news. And more importantly, it will make you sound very clever at dinner parties. Ground News is subscriber funded. No billionaire overlords pulling the strings. Just the unvarnished truth from every angle. What's not to like? That is ground.news/Dolan. I'll drink to that. Did Meghan's behaviour whilst serving frontline royal, did that cause Catherine so much stress? Is there any connection between Catherine's poor health and the hell that Harry and Meghan put her and William through over several years at the palace? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. I'm not going to stick my neck out and say yes, because that's one hell of an accusation. But what I will say, and I'll try to be balanced about this, I'll try to be even-handed, I'll try to be equiminious, which I don't believe is a word. Equiminious sounds like one of the saints. Oh, Saint Equiminius, he was very good. He looked after the children. In the 14th century in Ireland, Equiminius was a good man, and he saved the children and helped them with their illness. And he was very good Equiminius with the sick children in the hospitals and the clinics. The children weren't as sick as Harry, who has completely lost the plot and is now in the funny farm. But Equiminius was a fine man and is a patron saint of Ireland, alongside St. Patrick. Right, so where's this going? Folks, you mustn't interrupt me. Listen, I'm going to have to speak truth to power here. Yes, we have a great relationship. The viewers of the Mark Dolan Show and the listeners, and then the host, your respectful host. But if you keep interrupting me with questions about Saint Equiminius, then I think we should shall we create that? Should Saint Equiminius... Oh, sure, he was a good man. Equiminius was a good man, and he healed the children who were very sickly in the 11th century in Ireland. We should make him the patron saint of the Mark Dolan Show. Let's do it. Right. How do we get on to that? I'm going to try to be balanced about this, and I'm going to try to be Equiminius, Saint Equiminius, which is, I don't think you can rule out that Catherine was made gravely ill because of the stress that she'd been under in the last few years of her life. And the main source of that stress was Harry and Meghan, my husband. So I cannot say definitively, but you let me know in the comments. It can't have helped, can it? It can't have helped Catherine's health of what she went through and the upset because of Meghan and her competitive nature and the lies and the misinformation and the cruelty and the dirty looks and the barbed remarks. I mean, Meghan was so obnoxious to Catherine when Catherine was expecting, and William actually said to Meghan when the four of them got together for dinner one evening, you can't talk to my wife like that. It's highly inappropriate making remarks about her pregnancy and her appearance and all the rest of it. And Harry stepped in and went, oh, she's just American. It's a different way of communicating. Do me a favour. The Americans are the most respectful people you'll find. They're very decent. They're very, America is a society where they understand human nature, okay? And it's just, I've never met an American that wasn't sort of polite, respectful, incredibly generous. The Americans are crazy generous. You'll be on a flight somewhere in the world and you sit next to an American, and by the end of the flight, they're like, honey, you got to come and stay at our house, and you're going to use the pool, and and we're gonna have barbecue. And I don't know why. I don't know where that voice has come from. It's a little bit of a Meghan voice, isn't it? But the Americans will basically just, they'll give you everything they have if they like you and trust you and respect you. The Americans are open, and they're kind, and they're generous, and they're sweet, and they're not obnoxious. And I'm afraid Meghan is. I think she's very different to the typical American way. So all of it, obviously, Harry has done everything in public, all the dirty laundry, the family laundry. And he attacked Queen Camilla, characterizing her as the evil stepmother. And then, of course, it wasn't just the book and the podcasts and the Oprah interview and the Netflix show, Harry and Meghan. It was that BBC interview, which again kept this crazy thing going. And that should have been the straw that broke the camel's back for Charles, was the BBC interview, when he dismissively said, "Oh yeah, my father's ill. I don't know how long he's got, really, to be honest with you, man. I don't know how long he's got. How long has he got? Who knows, man?" Deeply, I mean, I don't know. Here's a question for you. Another question. So did Meghan and Harry, did they precipitate Catherine's illness? And by the way, another thing you can't rule out is the Queen falling ill and then us losing the Queen. Do you think that Harry and Meghan's behaviour and the threat of the book Spare, which the Queen knew was coming, did that hasten her departure? These are the tough conversations. We're going to have them. Let me know in the comments. Maybe it's overstating it. I don't know. You educate me, you inform me, because I'd like to know. But what we're seeing here now, but the BBC interview, that should have been when Charles said, right, I cannot do business with this kid. Because that was a deranged interview in which he actually said that the reason he lost his court case against the British government for royal security was an establishment stitch-up, right? So this guy has turned into a conspiracy theorist of the highest order. And yet Charles thinks that he can trust this guy and do business with him. Charles, what's happened to you? I wonder whether Harry, because he thinks, I mean, this interview with The Guardian, and The Guardian, by the way, they spent over 24 hours with him, followed him around with a notebook, exactly like those strange men do. You know, the military officers who follow around Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who's obviously an evil dictator, he's got these guys in uniform that follow him around, and they just have a notebook. And whenever he opens his mouth, they write down what he said. And that's in order to show him respect and make him feel powerful. And the idea is that if he just has a sudden, if he says, I prefer poached eggs to scrambled eggs, they're going to go, "Oh, thank you, your glorious leader. That's a very wise statement to make. You prefer scrambled eggs to poached eggs." Technically, by the way, let me know in the comments. You prefer scrambled or poached? I prefer scrambled, only because poached are very difficult to make. And I find that because they're boiled in water, they're just watery. And you cut them open and you get water along with the egg. And I just find the whole thing very icky. I like a scrambled egg. Do you know the Mark Dolan life hack for scrambled eggs? The Mark Dolan life hack for scrambled eggs is double cream, or as the Americans call it, heavy cream. And it's just a thick cream. And that goes as you mix your eggs, whisk them up together, a splash of heavy cream or double cream, salt, pepper, away you go. Better than milk because they're watery with the milk. Anyway, there you go. That's my top tip. I love the heavy cream. So, this is Harry doubling down. Okay. And he's got The Guardian, who are like the assistants to the dictator, writing down. I mean, this is a propaganda article from The Guardian, who are crazily pro-Sussex. And what they've done is they've fallen for Harry's poor me act. And they've allowed themselves to be his useful idiot and a mouthpiece for the Sussex machine. And what they've allowed him to do in this article is to double down on his outrageous, disgusting behaviour. But I'm actually glad that he's done this, because there was a danger that following the Clarence House summit, that Harry would pretend he's a changed man, and that he could claim to have kept his promise to the king that if they meet, that he wouldn't go to journalists, he wouldn't go to the press, no details of the meeting would be revealed. And he could have pretended that it's Harry 2.0. And unfortunately, a few naive people may well have fallen for it. But the great news about this Guardian article is it is absolutely revealing of who Harry is. And it demonstrates that, of course, a leopard can't change his spots. And it's perfect that he's been to the press, which is exactly what he said he wouldn't do. And it shows his real attitude, which is that he is doubling down and that he makes no apology for his behavior over recent years. And remember, an apology was going to be the essential first step to reconciliation with his father and potentially with his brother William, was an apology. But this is not an apology. This article, in which my conscience is clear, I didn't wash my dirty laundry in public, and it was a difficult message, but I had to deliver it. With him saying that, that is the opposite of an apology. So this makes any kind of, legacy of the Clarence House summit almost impossible. Like, Charles has learned his lesson. And I would hope that Charles now, having to read about his son in the newspapers, with the detailed information from his chat with his father, that Charles would be like, well, this is not the deal we struck, so I'm out. And it's certainly the case that William's out. We knew that anyway. But now, with Harry quite clearly not apologising and doing the opposite of it, a peace deal with his brother, it is absolutely impossible. It ain't going to happen. As the New Yorkers say, forget about it. One of you in the comments said you don't like it when I say forget about it. Forget about it. I think it's because I shout. So I won't shout it. Forget about it. New York, start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. What a tune, by the way, and what a town. So there we are. It's made a mockery of the Charles meeting. He addressed claims that he's miserable, by the way, with his new life out in Montecito, where he lives with Meghan. So part of this Guardian interview, he disputed the accusations that he's the world's least happy millionaire, which is, of course, the trademark of the Mark Dolan show. And he said, actually, I'm very happy with who I am, and I like the life that I live. And he went on to reference his ongoing dispute with the royal family, hinting that he'd uncovered hurtful secrets throughout his long-running feuds with those close to him. He said, I've certainly had to deal with some very stressful events over the last 4 years. Have you, Harry? Well, how stressful was it for Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip? How stressful was it for William, who had to go to church one morning and say, we are very much not a racist family? How stressful was it for Catherine and Charles, who were battling cancer at the same time that you were having your temper tantrum and washing the family's dirty laundry in public? He said, there's been the uncertainty and stress of the litigation and finding out only certain things that have really, really hurt me. Now, he complains about the litigation, right? This is the court cases against the Mail on Sunday and against the Home Office, all of which he loses because he's a professional loser. Everything this guy touches turns to mud. And he said there's been uncertainty and stress of the litigation. Well, then don't sue people, Harry. That would be the trick. Because I find litigation very stressful, which is why I don't sue people. Because it's not much fun. And as you've discovered, it is very, very expensive. Harry is already on the hook for $3 million for lost court cases, which Meghan can't be happy about. And has he paid that money yet? I would imagine he's paying it in installments. By the way, a lot of controversy about that $1.5 million to children in need. People are asking, is that going to be paid over a decade? And when does he hand over the cash? Has he got the money? And is it a tax write-off? I wouldn't put it past him. This guy is cynical. Yes, it's a good cause, but what's behind this? This is the issue I've got, you see. If any normal person, a regular celebrity, made a donation like that to children in need, I just think, wow, what an amazing person and how generous. But the problem with Harry is he's got no credibility anymore, and you have to therefore question everything he says and everything he does. I do not believe a word the guy says. And it's very interesting that he denies being unhappy. I'm very happy with who I am, and I like the life that I live. Now, it's a strange thing to say you like the life. This is when you're trying to convince the Guardian newspaper, who are essentially the sort of, in-house newsletter of the Sussexes, right? It's odd to say I like the life that I live. And this is him trying to convince everyone how happy. It's a strange way to describe your life, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you, I love my life. I don't like my life. I love my life because I love life, because life is the greatest blessing. And even if you're poorly and you've got problems and you've got no money and you've got health issues or whatever it is you're going through, and you've got worries and stresses and concerns, right? I still love life. I love my life, and I'm guessing and I'm hoping that you love your lives too. And I know, we speak in the comments a lot of you go through a really hard time, and you've got health issues and you've got other problems, family problems, work issues, money, addiction, right? Well, there's a lot going on in our lives, and life is tough. But I would have thought most of you would say that you love life, however hard it is. I mean, that is the Christian message, because it's a real blessing to have life, and then it's gone. It's fleeting. So for him to say, I like the life that I live, I think the mask has slipped there. I think that's deeply revealing. He likes that's a very lukewarm thing to say. And it demonstrates what we know on the Mark Dolan show, which he says miserable as hell in California. It doesn't suit him. The hot weather, his freckly skin, the ginger hair, and the showbiz nonsense that surrounds him. He doesn't want to have dinner with the Clooneys and Gwyneth Paltrow. That's not his scene. It doesn't suit him in California. And that's why he said that I like the lifestyle. It's all right. I don't mind it really. Sad. It's very sad. It's a sad situation, and it's getting more and more absurd. And I'm very happy with who I am. What does that even mean? I'm very happy with who I am. Talking about himself in the third person. I'm Prince Harry, and I'm very happy with who I am. That's also a strange thing to say. I would say, I'm happy, I'm very happy, and I love my life. That's what I would say. Right? Life is difficult. We're presented with problems every day, especially my neighbour's cat Reg, who is a furry invader and a killer, as we discovered in the last episode. But, you know, I love life, and I enjoy it, and I, wouldn't change a thing. But I'm very happy with who I am. That tells me that he's had so much therapy and so much of a discussion about who is Harry, who's the real Harry. Let's talk about you, Harry. Let's have some more navel gazing, and let's analyze you and who you are and turn you into this gigantic California-based narcissist. Anyway, so that's crazy. The other thing that's hilarious about this interview, and it is this is a gold rush of material, I can't lie. The Duke credited Meghan Markle for grounding him in, wait for it, honesty. Yeah, Meghan is the reason why he's decided to just live a very honest life. Meghan, the most duplicitous person on the planet. She said, she told me, just stick with the truth. And that's the thing I always fall back on. So Meghan Markle is now this moral arbiter, okay? And somebody that is the distillation, the very essence of truthful living is Meghan Markle, the fakest human being in history. My husband, you're so tall. Didn't you know I'm not Meghan Markle anymore? I'm Meghan Sussex. So is it the same Meghan that lied about her wedding date, saying that she got married the day before the wedding, which was contradicted by none other than the Archbishop of Canterbury, the man who married them? What about the Procter & Gamble campaign where when she was a kid, she wrote to the Procter & Gamble company and said, please don't put women in washing up adverts. It's sexist. And they changed policy. Something completely contradicted by her father, Thomas Markle Sr., who said it was a school project and this was no special campaign that she was responsible for. A big fat lie, more fabrication from Meghan. And of course, her poverty-stricken childhood. Oh, she grew up on the mean streets of Los Angeles. No, her father was a lighting director in television, award-winning, and she had a very comfortable middle-class existence. She was not growing up on the wrong side of the tracks. She was not in the trailer park, let me tell you. Also, what about this allegation she made that her father, Thomas, was unable to walk her down the aisle at St. George's Chapel because he suffered heart problems and that communication broke down in the lead up to the wedding. Well, Thomas said, no, that's not true. He said he was prepared to attend, but felt pushed out. He would have been at the wedding. And he said, I've apologized 100 times. I kept apologizing for the rest of my life, but I've never heard back from Meghan. What about Meghan's account in her lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday? She said the private letter that she wrote was a heartfelt attempt to reconcile with her father after the wedding. But Thomas said, no, that's not true. He said the letter was cold and accusatory, not conciliatory. He released excerpts to the press saying it was not an olive branch, it was a dagger to the heart. There's a pattern emerging here that Meghan says one thing and then the truth is something quite different. Meghan said that she worked from the age of 13 and paid her own way through Northwestern University, suggesting that she was financially independent. Thomas said, no, that's not true. He has repeatedly pointed out that he paid her tuition $500,000 all in on her education, both at private school and then at college. And he supported her financially until she joined the cast of Suits. In one interview, he said, I paid every penny of her college education. She lied when she said she put herself through school. What about this? We've got the modest upbringing, right? And of course, Harry told the Sun newspaper she was not from the ghetto. She was privileged. She went to the best schools and had the best life. And she had ballet lessons and acting lessons and a lovely home. What about the rather interesting story about Meghan's accusations of prejudice when she was growing up? She said she struggled with her identity as a mixed-race child and remembered moments when the colour of her skin became an issue. She cited school forms where she was told to tick her ethnicity and all the rest of it, right? She's talked a lot about that. But Thomas, I should say, he said, no, that's not true. She did not experience any kind of prejudice as a child. And she had a very happy, carefree existence as a young person. In one interview, he said, Meghan never had to deal with racism while growing up. She went to the best schools. She was surrounded by all races and colours. Race was never an issue. And that she was treated like a princess from the day she was born. That doesn't fit the narrative, and it doesn't fit her account. Why? Well, because you can't believe a word that Harry and Meghan have said. As I hopefully have pointed out to you, I've got so many more examples of it. And lastly, before we wrap this up, it's worth remembering that today is Harry's 41st birthday. Okay, and that should be a celebration, but what is there to celebrate? Estranged from his family and his own country, and now burning his bridges with a brand new interview in The Guardian, which is bound to annoy Charles and give Charles buyer's regret. He's stuck in California. He's got no job. The charities are imploding. Half of Invictus want him out. And Sentebale is a smoking ruin of a charity and a public relations dumpster fire, and he's lost control of it. So what's happening with Harry? You've got Travelis, which is his eco-travel firm, which is a non-profit, so there's no money to be made there anyway. And the CEO has just left, and they are like rats leaving a sinking ship because no one wants to work for the Sussexes and no one wants to work for Harry. That new so-called Netflix deal, which is not a deal at all, it's just that Netflix get first refusal on any rubbish that Harry and Meghan pitch to the network. Harry's not part of that. Harry's not part of the Netflix conversation. They might look at one or two bits and pieces from Meghan, but they don't want Harry's rubbish. So what is there to celebrate on Harry's 41st birthday? And now he demonstrates that he's digging in further, that he's undone all that good work of a reconciliation with his father, that he's in denial, and that he's being profoundly dishonest in denying the fact that he made all of this public. And it wasn't just, by the way, the private stuff. You know that inquiry into Sentebale? Well, the official investigation into what was happening at the charity criticised Prince Harry for making the dispute within the charity, making it a public thing, going to the press about it. And that's what this guy does. And he did it with Sentebale, he did it with his brother, he did it with his father, he did it with his stepmother, his sister-in-law. He is a repeat offender and is very sad to witness. Folks, it's been great to chat. So many more Truth Bombs to come tomorrow. So don't forget, we drop the show at 6 p.m. in the UK every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that is 10 a.m. on the Pacific coast of the United States, or 1 p.m. on the East Coast. and it is in the middle of the night in Australia and New Zealand. Cannot wait for our next conversation. Stay awesome. Let me know what you're loving about the show. Let me know what you're not loving. Let's have a big, big chat tomorrow. Stay awesome. Have a great day, and bye for now. In the middle of the night, where the valley was low,